house, but it's completely muddied up. No light is coming in. And you're sitting there in this dark place, in this dark room, not aware of anything. You don't understand anything. And then through meditation, you start to clean up the dirt a little bit, and a little piece of light comes in. But for the first time, you can see. First time you can see, and you're like, oh my God, what? Dude, I see. And then if you've heard of people seeing things, you're like, dude, I totally see things, bro. Like, I see the shit out of stuff, bro. Like, no one sees better than me. I see stuff, right? But in reality, this is just your introduction to light, to vision. And you don't yet see the barriers, the limitations of your visual field, because there's so little light. This is how we're going to talk about the different cycles of enlightenment. So the first cycle of enlightenment is a little bit of light is coming in. Now, the first thing that you become aware of is like, oh my God, awareness. Oh, the void. But like I said in the map of enlightenment video, it's perverted by your blockages. So what does that do? When you have a lot of blockages, there's a lot of intensity in your experience, and there's a lack of clarity. So you feel this void. It's very like, it's almost an intense experience. It's like, oh my God, I finally stepped out of the body. You freak out. You're very dramatic in this thing, extremely dramatic. And you also delude yourself and lie to yourself about the blockages that it's obvious that you have. Why? Because the blockages really want to be like, no, I'm done. It's over. We got this. So the fourth void stage is a void experience, or a no self experience, riddled with blockages and in a way intense and unclear. It's almost like a high. Okay? So that's the first void stage. The second is a God stage. The God stage carries the same thing, but it has love and, qualities of God and more universality. The void is kind of nihilistic also because of the first void. It carries a nihilistic edge to it because of all the blockages. So that nihilistic edge starts to go away, and the more universality comes in the first God stage. And then you move on to the second cycle. In the second cycle, it's more clear, it's more relaxed. It's almost like smooth compared to the first void. The first void was unclear and weird. But this is almost smooth, and that's why we used to call it the uncontracted state, because it's like you realize you were fighting so hard with these gross mental activities and all this weird shit that's happening to you. But in this experience, that kind of dies down unless you're purging. That's the second void. There's a clarity. And you start to say stupid shit or feel like the world doesn't exist and stuff like this. There's a lot of nonsense. If you want a description of 1,000, actually, a description of 1,000 isn't even relevant. So I'm going to skip that because, again, it's a void stage. It's more clear. It's more smooth. Does that make sense? Okay, that makes sense. The refinement comes in, and it's a more, so the God stage that you experience in the first cycle accompanies massive, intense heart awakenings. And you go like, oh my God, I love that. But the heart openings and the experiences you have in refinement and in the light body stage are cool and calm. Yet it's still not totally clear because it carries a hint of arrogance. It carries all sorts of stuff. Plus, you're picking up massive karma at this point. This is where you start picking up karma. And picking up karma feels like you're just walking around, feeling good. Oh, love and people love. And then, bam, you take fucking a hit to the chest, a hit to the gut, and so on and so forth. These first two stages are pretty unclear, pretty shitty, pretty whatever. Then it starts to get real in the done stage, right? The third cycle. This is what really matters. The earlier cycles, like if you look at the enlightened teachers in the earlier cycles, which is everyone, they're so dramatic and weird and contradictory, and they don't make sense. And it's just, they're so weird. Like, it's just odd, It's like, oh, yes. What is the one? The one is the two. The two is the one. It's weird. It's not a good look. In the third cycle, now there's enough dirt removed that there's a decent amount of light, and you can actually see to an extent. So the void, the dreamer, whatever you want to call it, becomes kind of clear. Now, there's still a sense of dramaticism, and on clarity. But you don't see that until you move on, or unless you're purging. In this page, in this stage, void is really void. Void is really cool. Void is really beyond. But there's still blockages, and that you see that when you purge fucking terribly in this stage. If you stabilize in this stage, you won't see that, and you're just good. And, you're like Alan Watts or Jeb McKenna, and you're like bars, but whatever. And then the God stage and the next cycle are just, again, more depth, more clarity, less intense. More depth, more clarity, less intense. By less intense, I don't mean, I'm saying more depth, but less intense. You're just not freaking out about it. It's like if you're 15, you touch a girl's hand, you're like, oh my God, I touched a girl's hand. But if you're 25, you have an adult relationship, and that's normal. Do you understand? There's a lot more depth to that relationship, but it's not as intense. So this increases, keeps increasing cycle after cycle. And if you want to the only stage that matters is the done stage and the lit stage, in our thing, because everything else doesn't really matter. The done stage is because it's a good threshold. It's a good, whatever. And the lit stage is because now shit is getting lit. Now shit is getting lit. Shit is getting real. You're going to start dying soon. And then the real shit like Ramana and Jesus is going to come, which is Nirguna and Saguna. By the way, I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you watched the map of enlightenment and the other video, right? So I think I'm not going to go into detail, blah, blah, blah. I think that's good enough for people that have questions, that have watched the other videos. We can call this the map of enlightenment 2 elaboration or something. Does that make sense? Is that good? Or do you guys want me to elaborate on it? Dad, you got to say elaborate on what though? You start to die after lit, yeah. Dude, it's the same, like description-wise, it's the same thing, more depth, less intensity. I told you the differences. So if I'm going to sit here and describe it, I'm just going to sit here and describe the same thing and then be like, okay, in the second stage, it's more depth. It's an experience. Like, aside from the differences that I'm saying, but that's exactly what I described though, Kevin. What do you mean maybe how it feels? Oh, elaborate what changes it lit. Okay, that's good. That's good. Like, you need to be specific with the questions, because it's just like vague. How does it feel? Dude, I went through 27 shifts, right? And they're like so similar. I'm not going to sit here and talk about every single one in detail. That doesn't make sense. Because they're similar. Like, description-wise, they're similar. It's just the depth of intensity, right? Like the color red and in fucking ridiculous intense red that's fucking shiny and glowing, they're both red. Like, if you're like, describe both reds to me. Okay, one of them is a lot more red. One of them is glowy. One of them is clear. One of them is dirtied up with like black shit in it. It's just like, it's weird to say like describe them when they're similar in these ways. Elaborate what changes at lit and what can't. Okay, so at lit, up until this point, there's so much blockages within you. There's so much doubts within you that you don't really, you have experiences of God, but when it goes away, you're like, God, I don't know about that. Maybe it's the self. Maybe it'll. But when you hit lit, you're like, oh God, oh my God, this is so nice. It's so beautiful and it's so blissful, and you're taken care of. And it's like, oh my God, this is crazy, dog. What is happening right now, Doug? And that's a lit stage. And then you start dying. The dying phase is just one large purgathon. So you keep emptying out more and more. You see, up until this point, you're like, dude, I totally have no blockages at each cycle. You keep saying that. You keep thinking that. Unless I come and tell you, hey, you have loads and chill out, right? But in the dying phase, it's just you keep emptying out. You're like, I'm totally empty. It's like, hell no. More, it's like, I'm totally empty. Hell no. I'm totally empty. Hell no. I'm totally empty. Hell no. Totally empty. Hell no. And then you get glimpses of what Nirguna and Saguna kind of are as well. And then when you completely empty out, you get actual Nirguna, and words cannot describe or do justice to this state. If people say the words can't do justice to Nirguna, to the first stages of enlightenment or first cycles of enlightenment, please, Doug. Words really can't do justice to the last cycle. That's what it is. That's what it do. That's what we does. That's how we buzz. What? Okay, so that's good. Post-lit purging is more subtle. It's not as bad. It's not as existential. It's not, well, it is existential, but it's not as intense because it happens within that experience. So it's a lot better. It's just a lot better, you know? Yeah. You don't feel as alone in the post-lit purges, if that makes sense. Yeah, I think that's a good way of saying it. Blockages is like karma or trauma, you could say. Blockages are karma, Doug. Kevin, have you listened to anything I've ever said in life? Questions you ask, bro, like, have you had glimpses of what? Yeah, bro, I'm practically in Nirguna right now. I'm like fucking 90% inside. Just like my leg is outside. And I'm like, yo, Nirguna, come on, dog. Can you like, my leg is stuck. But Rally, will this get me late? I don't know, man. Like, enlightenment is pretty crazy, but it's not that outrageous. Oh, man, you mean me? Yeah, I was talking to you, Kevin. But never mind. Just kidding. Talk about your sneak previews. Oh, you want me to talk about my sneak previews? Okay, so the sneak previews were kind of like this, right? So I'm having an experience of the 600-700s. Like I'm fluctuating between the 600-700s. I'm chilling, having a good time. And then we meditate, and someone puts on like a rasa, and the rasa energy triggers this energetic change within me, and I feel super terribly basic. And like just existential crisis to the max. I felt so garbage. I never felt that garbage. Well, actually I had, but like it was really bad. It was really garbage. And it was like more existential than most of my shit. So I feel like garbage for one day. And meanwhile, Zen and like Salo are like, dude, we're fucking blissed out, bro. And I'm like, fucking, I feel like garbage. And they're like, oh shit. And I'm like, bro, because like up until then, we kept like comparing our states. And all of a sudden, I feel like absolute horrible garbage. So anyway, I'm like, dude, I'm just going to fucking chill in my room. I'm not going to do anything. We'll see what happens. Then I get up. And then the next thing that happens, the Salo looks at me. He's like, I think your state is going to skyrocket. I'm like, okay, whatever. Dude. I thought that too, but I thought like, hey, man, ego talking shit or something. So then as we're leaving the room one day, he's like, dude, I think shit's going to go down. I'm like, all right, whatever. All of a sudden, I feel the Kundalini snake go up my spine, just like shoots up. And I was like creating like crazy. Like I don't create normally, but I was walking around like shaking like weird fucking ridiculous shit. And I was like bounce. I actually sat down. I remember this. I sat down on the floor and my ass was like jumping up and down by itself. It was really weird. It was like boom, boom, boom. And I felt really good. I knew that weird, terrible day was over. And it was like super, super cool. It went up to the ventricles of the brain and like literally like fills up the ventricles of the brain. If you look up the ventricles, you'll see what it is. And then the two ventricles kind of join. So it's kind of like what Yan describes for unity consciousness. And so that happened. And, but it's still like, it felt pretty warm, but it was still pretty basic, right? So then I had like a fucking 100 shifts in a matter of like a week after that. Like it was a retarded amounts of shifts. Most of the shifts, they don't really matter that much because they were pretty basic. But then shit started getting real one day where I got up, because up until then, I kept asking Sal to check my energies. Like, it's good, it's this, it's that, whatever. It doesn't matter. Well, all of a sudden, shit got hella real when I got up one day and I'm like super ecstatic. And I'm like smiling and, my hands on the wall and I'm like waving back and forth and I'm like being really weird. And Sal's like, what's up? I'm like, I'm dying. I think I'm dying. And then Sal was like, why are you so happy about it? I'm like, because I'm dying. And he's like, what the fuck, dude? All right. And he checks my energy. He's like, bro, you have like no energy. I'm like, yeah, because I'm dying. And he's like, what? Okay, dude, you feel good? I'm like, I feel great. I'm dying. And then I'm like, I'm dead. right? And then he's like, what? Well, okay, Doug, I guess. And then I felt really good, and I had no energy. All of a sudden, my energy changed, and I started to have energy. But he said your energy is inaccessible. So like, there's regular, normal energy. There's this weird, inaccessible energy that I was putting out after that phase. So that starts happening, and I'm still not in nirguna. I'm just like I'm just putting out this energy now, and it's cool, and I'm in a cool state, and it's a brilliant state. Like I love that preview. It's really good. But then nirguna happened, and nirguna blew my mind. I had like tons of weird shifts up until here, but nirguna was ridiculous. Nirguna was like you're watching a movie, and you were stuck in the movie all this time with all the experiences of void and all the experiences of God, all those fucking stupid experiences. It's like you were in a movie, right? And then the rolling credits come, and then you leave the cinema, and then like when you leave the cinema and like you're still looking at the movie because you want to see if there's like a like there's a fucking Marvel whatever at the end, right? It's like you're kind of doing that. It's like you left, but you kind of still see it. So you're like, oh, okay, let's see what happens here, real quick. So, so then that kind of happened, and that's nirguna, right? And it's completely like reality just becomes like a paper thin thing, and it's like floating. It's so cool, man. It's super awesome. And so that happens, and and that's nirguna. And then I'm like, dog, fucking what? Oh yeah. But then, like, I still was kind of contracted. So this might be because I was still experiencing like a sneak preview. I still felt contracted in nirguna. Right now, I don't at all, but back then I did. And it became evident when I slept and I had the experience of the causal. So the causal experience I've talked about. Do people want me to talk about it again or no?
You can talk about it.
Okay, so the causal experience is like I slept, and then I just saw like, what the fuck is happening here, dog? It's like you're in infinite nothingness. It's just a body, and it's being charged with bliss. This is an amazing experience, but it sucks because I still have blockages and contractions. So I kept going into shitty fucking dream world after shitty fucking dream world from this ecstatic place. So it's like ecstatic body chilling with bliss, awesomeness, and then shitty dream. And I could like in dreams I knew I was dreaming, so I'd be like, dude, come on, I want to go back. Then I go back and I'm like, oh no, because I could feel like a world about to form. I'm like, I don't want to go to a dream world, Doug. Like that thought percolated the causal realm, which is kind of weird, but that was the case. And then the last thought was like, oh, I'm going back to reality or something. So reality comes, or regular reality. And I'm like, what the fuck was that? And then I read some Ramana, and Ramana's like, you need to get rid of the causal as well. The causal is problematic. I'm like, that was totally the causal, bro. That was so causal, bro. I need to get rid of this shit. I didn't think that, but just reading that hit something. And then there was pure openness. There was total beyondness, but there was no bliss yet. So all of a sudden bliss comes. And it's like something came into my body, like light or something. And then as this happened, the homie Salo looks at me. He's like, you're a god. And then he starts freaking out. I'm like, what? He's like, you're a god. And I'm like, bars. I'm a god. Yeah. Because I was still a bit contracted in these states. So I was like, hell yeah, I'm a god. What you talking about? You think I'm not a god, bro? I'm like, so god, this shit is ridiculous, dog. What you mean? And so then that happened. And then I fell from all of these states. And that wasn't fun. So yeah, guys, that's what it is. You quoted Ramana in a pretentious white dude voice. Did I? Okay, so that's the sneak previews. Okay, so the homie's saying that made no sense. Did it make sense to anyone? Because I think that made sense. Yeah, that made pretty good sense, I think. And also, I fluctuated. So I hit nirguna, then I hit saguna, then I hit nirguna again, and then I dropped. But the dropping, like I didn't drop from like this stage to that stage to this stage to that stage. It was just nirguna, saguna, nirguna, boom. I think it was messy for someone who didn't hear about these things before. Yeah, probably, but you guys have. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. But imagine all of that happening to you, dog, and you're like super basic, like you're in the second stage of enlightenment. And then like you fall from all that, and then you call up like the homie, what's his name? Um Elias. No, you call up Elias. Yan was another interesting story. I can talk about the Yan story as well. So up like because I'm still contracted in these states and all this crazy shit is happening. So I'm like, bro, is this unity consciousness, man? What is this, man? So I call up Yan. Yan is like, this is unity consciousness. When the snake went up and shit, right? And then I'm like, dude, I'm totally beyond Yan at this point. But am I? Because I don't experience crazy bliss like Yan talks about. Like, what is happening? I'm confused. So, you know, I felt like no ego in these states in comparison to my experience. Like, I felt just pure love and pure stuff and pure blah. And then Yan calls me up, and Yan is like hella. And Yan was like hella basic. Like Yan was saying some basic ass shit. Yan was being hella basic about things. And he was like angry. He's like, you think you're more enlightened than me, you piece of shit? Fuck you, dude. I'm gonna fucking smack you in the face. You think you think you're more enlightened, you motherfucker? Like, there was so much anger and hatred in him. It was kind of crazy, actually. So Zen was there and Salo was there. And I remember Salo walked down and he was like, what the fuck? What? Like, how is this guy talking like this? And Zen was also like, dog, oh shit. That's pretty basic. That sort of, that's sort of, you know. I don't remember, but like he kept saying like I'm super basic, but with anger. And then I was like being really respectful and I was thanking him and he was like, you're fucking delusional, you crazy piece of shit or something. It was really weird. I don't remember exactly what he said. But then after that, I was like convinced that, okay, no, this dude is super basic. And then I moved on. Yeah, he was like angry. He was like, you think you're more enlightened than me? I feel sorry for you. You're pathetic, man.